Yep, S. Foster here with another episode of the Stolen Time podcast, and still without Uncle Washington. I appreciate the people that still rocking with me, through this journey. I haven't had Uncle Washington in a while, but like I've been saying, Uncle Washington going through some things, so hopefully everything get cleared away with him. Like I say, I don't want to get too much into details about exactly what's going on with him right now, but I don't want anyone to think it's a situation like there's beef or anything like that. He's still my guy. We still good. It's nothing at that capacity, but it's just some other, there's some health concerns that's keeping Uncle Washington away from the podcast. And I have no guest today, but I did that for a reason. I wanted to come on here, and it was some things that, you know what I'm saying, that I wanted to get into that was, very important, that things that I wasn't able to touch on. It was things that I was able to touch on a little bit, but I had the last podcast on this platform. I had a panel, so I appreciate Sinclair Cannon, Dustin Turner, and Scoots Bronson. Scoots Bronson, my co-host. Well, not my co-host, but we're both co-hosts of the Viewers Anonymous podcast. So I appreciate all those guys for coming on with me, and we touched a little bit on the first topic that I got on hand today. And if I didn't mention it, this was episode 208 of the podcast. And so obviously, the biggest news that's out right now is the Derek Chauvin case. And so the verdict came down. I think they deliberated for like 10 hours, and a lot of people that are into law will say anytime it's that short, it's a guilty verdict. And he was guilty on all three charges that he had. The highest charge was second degree murder. And I was listening to some things today, and it seems that I don't have the most unpopular opinion. And my whole thing about it is this isn't anything to celebrate. They still got to do the verdict in 18 months. Who knows how that's going to go? But my thing is, I would compare this to if we are going to use an NFL analogy. So they just changed it to 18 weeks, but let's go regular 16 weeks. Well, 17 weeks, right? So you play 16 games, and your team is 0 and 15, and they're playing that last game of the season, and they win that last game. How do you feel? That's kind of like how I feel about this verdict. It's like, all right, it's cool, we got a little win, but it's not anything that's life changing. I'm pretty sure that the family and shout out to Steven Jackson. I'm pretty sure they are glad that there is some action being taken on the Chauvin, but at the same time, I kind of figured that he was going to be found guilty for the simple fact of his department turned their back on him. So I knew that there was going to be a guilty verdict because in one of the testimonies, the cop, I think the guy that was the what do you call that guy, chief of police or whatever he was, and he was saying that that isn't protocol what he was doing that day. And see, they got this blue code of silence that they usually have, and they kind of went away with it with him. And you also have to understand that this case, as far as George Floyd, this wasn't just an American protest. You know what I'm saying? This wasn't just in America, in Canada. Like this went all over the world. Like this was the first time it's ever been a protest to go all over the world. So they was going to make an example out of Derek Chauvin. And it still remains to be proven if they're going to go all the way through with this. But this is one of those things where you might have won one battle, but the war still goes on. I mean, just like today, well, yesterday, 16-year-old girl got shot in Columbus, Ohio. That's in Scoots Bronson neck of the woods, where the girl actually called the cops to say that there were other females attacking her. She was 16 years old. Police pull up and put 4 in the chest because she had a knife. And it made me think because I just watched a movie that I love watching, a Quentin Tarantino film, Death Proof. And I was talking at this restaurant, and they got on the subject of the old girl having a gun. And, the other girl's like, why you got a gun? And she was like, why don't you use a knife or pepper spray? And she was like, you want to know who gets shot? People that got knives. You know what I'm saying? So my whole thing is you pull up on the scene, you don't de-escalate the thing, you just come up guns blazing, and you hit a girl 4 times in the chest. Who called you? We automatically threats every single time. Now I know some people are gonna look at it and be like, "Yo, she had a weapon, all this type shit." But like, there's an excuse all the time. And for the people who think like that, I mean, there's nothing else to say but y'all are idiots and you fucking assholes. Like that's all it is to it. There's a time to sugarcoat things and the times where you don't, because people made excuses for Kyle Rittenhouse, who rolled up across state lines. His mom drove him across state lines, 17 years old, not even old enough to have an assault rifle. And they're making excuses for him, saying, oh, well, he was being attacked by protesters, right? But George Floyd, I seen a guy that I went to school with play football with his brothers, making excuses, talking about, well, oh well, they both was in the wrong. He was resisting, and he had drugs in his system and all this type shit. It's like, yo, like really, like just really shut the fuck up, like, because at the end of the day, it's like people make excuses for what they want to make excuses for. Like when the whole Kaepernick stuff was going on, like what's happening right now. This is what Kaepernick was taking the knee for. And what they tell him, this ain't the right time to do it. Okay, it's not the right time. And then it's like, oh, but you don't do it during the national anthem. Or if you do it during the national anthem, that means you're disrespecting the flag. And then it's just like this whole conversation that went around Colin Kaepernick, and all of the people that didn't want to face it head on, they make excuses and hide behind the flag, when he clearly said it had absolutely nothing to do with the flag and it had nothing to do with the army or any kind of military branch. Now the military branch don't own the flag; they wear the flag, but they don't own it. And this guy was supposedly using a counterfeit 20, which now this is not an excuse. This is just something where I just always felt nervous about using cash, because there's so much fake shit going around, like you never know. I remember back when I was in high school, guys used to they used to get $1 to put into the vending machine, and they'll cut a piece of paper the same size as the dollar, and then they'll stick the dollar in, and it'll let the thing read it, and then they would yank the dollar out the last minute, and they would take the paper, and then they would get a drink from it. Uh, I know that's not counterfeit, but the whole point is people always trying to get over people. That's the whole point of me even saying that, because you never know if that was the case, if he knew it was fake or not. Now, that's besides the point. But the point I'm trying to make is this dude put his knee in his neck for over 9 minutes, and there are people there were people in the courtroom trying to defend this man by saying two things. The first thing they said was that he was on drugs, right? And they said that could have been a cause of his death. And then the other thing is that he was resisting, right? These are the excuses that they made in the courtroom. So then that takes you to Rodney King, which was like really like the first time that these type of acts was caught on camera in 1992. Well, these cops are beating this man halfway to death. And the excuse was he was pulled over for a warrant and he wasn't all the way down. And they let all four of these cops off who stood there with their nightsticks beating the shit out of this man. Right? But let me tell you the reason why a lot of these people that don't have sympathy, a lot of these people that are making excuses for the cop, the people that are still riding around with uh, Blue Lives Matter flags and all this little shit with the blue line and all of this. These are the same people that have that same train of thought that police chief had in LA at that time, where they had a phrase that was called, what was it? It was black and normals, right? Because he made a statement saying that the chokehold, the reason that black people die from the chokehold more than white people is because we're not normal. And said that they're not using excessive force on them. It's just that I guess our necks can't handle that type of pressure, and we just tend to die more than white people. Instead of just saying logically what it is we hold their necks stronger, harder, and longer than we do white people, or if we even put white people in the chokehold. So they'll rather make up a shit and then going around Los Angeles saying black and normals because the old sheriff cars are black and white. So when they would roll up, they would say, "Oh, they go the black and normals." That's these same people that got that train of thought of, "Oh well, if he would have had his knee on the neck of a white person, he wouldn't have died because you know what I'm saying? Because white people are normal." When I sit back and I think about this verdict, and like I said, we still got to wait like 8 weeks, I believe I heard, for the sentencing. I think the most that he could get, if he got the max of everything, it's like 70 years, which I doubt is going to be that. I do believe Derek Chauvin is going to jail because he is the one that's being chosen to be making a tiny bit of a example out of, but I don't think it's going to change anything. I think at the end of the day, people are still going to, no, excuse me, let me rephrase that. Cops are still going to treat black people the same way. We had a conversation on the panel where they was talking about police reform. I don't think it's a situation of police reform because they know how to police when it's a white person, but the whole rule book go out the window when it's a black person. Ever since we've been in this country, it's been that. We the whole reason that the police department is number one exists and the only reason why they're thriving. So when you sit back and think about how police got pensions and you know unions and all this type of shit, it's all off the backs of black people. About the way that they're being treated out here in these streets, in the way that we are presumed to be. Well, we are violent and we are the ones who cause the most trouble and the most violence and all this type of shit. When we ain't the ones that are doing mass shootings. We ain't the ones who typically take guns and call hunting a sport. Like the great Uncle Washington say, it can't be a sport if only one side knows it's a game. Now it's different if you want to go out and you want to kill for food. All right, cool. You know what I'm saying? Shoot a deer, cut it up, you know what I'm saying? Package it, put it in the freezer. I'm fine. I'm cool with that. But like when you just going out shooting deers, taking a picture with it, shooting bucks and taking a picture with it, you know what I'm saying? Turkeys, all this little shit that those people go out and shoot for fun. I don't even fish. Even if you fish and you throw them back, I mean, you put a hole in this motherfucker mouth and then you throw them back in the water. Now, does this mean I'm gonna stop eating animals? Hell no. But what I'm saying is, this train of thought that some of the people have is, I mean, obviously it's not new. I'm gonna get a little bit more into some of these other things, but my whole thing, man, to put a button on this, is it good that Derek Chauvin is, denied bail and is in custody for killing George Floyd? Yes. Is the struggle over? No. Hopefully they're punished him to the max, but I don't think that this is anything to say that there's a turn in history here. Now there was a turn in history that started with George Floyd, but with Derek Chauvin, I don't think that this is a situation. I mean, look, we've seen cops go to jail for killing a person. You want to know what happened in Minnesota? You want to know who got shot? A white woman. You want to know who went to jail? A man of color. So it's happened, just haven't happened to a white guy. Now, something that you should keep your eye on is this whole thing that's going on with Maxine Waters, how she made the statements that she made, and it wasn't a good look for Queen Maxine to say that. It wasn't a good look. Do I think she should lose her job? No. Do I think she was inciting a riot? I don't. But we know who did when it came to January the 6th, and nothing happened to him. So all of these people that are making these comments, in a negative way, saying that Queen Maxine should get, removed from her position and all of this type shit, and she should lose her credentials and all this type stuff. When the president incited the riot and people went into, Capitol Hill and all these things that they did, climbing walls and damaging property and all this type shit, he incited the riot and nothing happened. So that takes us into mass shooting. I saw a thing the other day where, like on the job for the people that work out there, where they'll say, days of no accidents, or, it's a safety thing. And it'll say, this is how many days it's been since we had an accident. Somebody put up a thing that said, this is how many, it said mass shootings, and it had 0 on it. There has been over 46 mass shootings in the past couple of months. As soon as we get able to get back outside. And what makes it even sweeter for those people who love guns so much, I work for FedEx. It's going to be 13 years in November. And in Indianapolis, Indiana, I think now I can't remember if he was 18 or 19 years old. Kid goes up in the FedEx, starts shooting. I think it was 6 or 8 people. They actually just put a sticker on the back of our trucks today that say, Indy Strong type of thing. You can't go to work, can't go to school, can't go to grocery stores without people getting shot. Right? I I had Dustin on, and he has his views on guns. Mine are different. And my whole thing with, I remember he made a statement, and it was the same statement that 45 made when there was a mass shooting. Man, I wish I could remember what it was, but this man came out that lived in the neighborhood and started shooting back at the shooter. And he was like, we need more citizens like that. So like they saying that this is the answer. The answer is let's give more Americans guns to handle mass shootings. That's about as dumb as it take as what my man had said by saying that black and normals. You know, like the great Chris Tucker said, and this is kind of on their argument in a way, but he said in the great movie Money Talks, guns don't kill people. Stupid motherfuckers with guns kill people, right? But if you take the guns out of their hands, then these stupid motherfuckers ain't got a gun. The thing is with guns is guns give people this ego that they wouldn't have had beforehand. You know, like when you watching a movie, right? And there's a guy who's getting punked. Okay, let's take higher learning. So Michael Rappaport's playing Remy. You know what I'm saying? My guy Omar Epps playing Malik. And there was a situation where Malik and Remy got into a little run in. Remy punked out. But when they had another run in, oh, he's a nigger. He's this. He calling them all this shit. See, the thing is, you're a totally different person when you got that gun in your hand, right? You're invincible with that gun in your hand. But when you ain't got that gun, a lot of the times these dudes are punks. I remember Marcellus Wiley told a story when he used to work for ESPN, and he said that I can't remember who he was playing for at the time, but he said there was some robberies. Some cars got broken into, and so he was like, you know, maybe it'd be best if I got a gun. So he said he pulls up to a red light, and he sees this guy start walking towards his car. He had his gun like right beside him, and when the dude started walking close to his car, he put the gun in his lap. And he said he was about to pull the gun on this dude, and the dude just about to ask for directions. Now, his whole point of telling the story is if he never would have had that gun, he never would have had any intentions of hurting this dude. It never even would have crossed his mind. But when you got a gun on you, you think differently, right? And that's the same way. Like most people won't step to a lot of people if they ain't got no gun. But if they got a gun, oh, they're the biggest shit talker that there is. My whole thing with guns and violence, I don't think more handles the problem, right? You know, I'm watching them right now. For them, the problem is if one white person, well, excuse me, if one black person move into the neighborhood, they ruins the neighborhood, right? And so they're doing everything they can to get this black family to move out their neighborhood. You put one gun in the neighborhood, it can ruin the neighborhood. But if you take that gun away, not even take it away, because everybody want to cry about the Second Amendment, and I spoke about this on that last podcast. The Second Amendment was all made up because of slaves, because of the 13th Amendment. Well, excuse me, no, let me rephrase that. Because the 13th Amendment haven't happened yet. The reason that they gave them that Second Amendment is because, number one, there wasn't no fighting army, and then number two, black people outpopulated white people in the South, so they gave slave owners the right to bear arms. It's the whole reason why they even did that shit in the first place. So, so everybody want to cry about this is their amendment and this is their right. Let's go Bird's ass. New York had a law. When they put that law into place, they said there was a turn in policy. You ain't got to say nothing. We ain't even got to see you. Just turn your guns in. And if you caught with one, 2 years automatic. Plexico Bird shot himself and went to jail for 2 years. You know why? Because he had a gun in the state that he didn't supposed to have one. I don't know if this is the answer. I'm not saying I'm the smartest guy in the world. All I'm saying is violence isn't the answer for everything. You don't fight fire with fire. You fight fire with water. And you got a whole bunch of people that all of a sudden turn into these tough guys because they got guns. Something's going wrong in their day. They go to a gun. A lot of people are mentally unstable out here. And you want to give them a gun? The answer to stop mass shootings is to give more people guns so they can shoot too. And this is something else because obviously I don't think that people thought this all the way through. So let's say there's a mass shooting. So your answer is to put more guns in the hands of Americans. So let's say one person starts shooting back at that shooter, and then that shooter starts shooting at that shooter, they hit somebody else, and then this person they got a gun on them too. So they start shooting at them, and then bullets are flying all over the place. And next thing you know, there's 8 people out here shooting, and they don't even know what the fuck they're shooting at. Have that even crossed your mind? Because people are gonna be more tend to shoot than they're gonna be to duck if you just keep giving everybody guns. It's just crazy that someone walked into a FedEx facility and started shooting. And I know everybody can make the joke, oh man, maybe he didn't get his package on time. So this is a reason to start shooting people? It's ridiculous we live in a place, man, that we can't even go to work. Our kids can't go to school. I deliver to these one apartments where a guy that worked with us got a gun put out on him. There was another situation years back where a guy was delivering in the country, drove his truck down this long driveway, and they could see this big ass white FedEx truck, and they pulled a gun out on the FedEx driver. What are you doing on my property? It's insane, man. The place that we live, the things that are going on in this country, where you can't even do your job, man. You go into work and now it's gunfire. Prayers out to those people who was affected. And then you got to realize, like now these people, they got trauma. They ain't used to that. Everybody's not used to gunfire. I say this all the time. I never even shot a gun before. Wouldn't even know how to react. I don't know if I would have trauma from that situation. Maybe I would, maybe I won't. Who knows? I haven't been in that situation. But you also have to understand that now every day they go to work, I don't mean this in no joking manner, but they're gonna be on their P's and Q's now. They're gonna be paranoid. That place is never gonna be the same again, and those people are never gonna be the same again. You got social media out here got people going crazy because they're not getting enough likes. You got people out here that are flipping out because either their boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with them, or a girl won't date them, or they got embarrassed. And that's the thing that you got to understand. It's just like there have been situations where people have flipped out because they got fired from their job. And some of these people put their life savings away for something and it get taken away. And you want to give these people guns? I just don't think it's a smart idea. It's it's terrible, man. It's terrible. But then I live down here in South Carolina, and there was a situation that happened down in Columbia. Well, a black kid was walking through a neighborhood. White guy. I mean, look, this black kid had to be like 5'6", $120, if that. Just walking down the neighborhood. This white guy's probably like 5'10", 5'11". You know what I'm saying? About 215. And now that it came out that he was in the military, now you can see, you know, the way he was talking, the stature that he stood there. A lot of times with these guys that was in the military, you can tell by just the way they standing, by the way they walk. And he's yelling at this kid, talking about, "What are you doing? What are you doing in my neighborhood? This is a close knit neighborhood. I know everybody who stay here. You don't belong here." His wife is over there yelling at him, talking about, "So where do you stay?" And he's like, "I stay run away. Where is that? I'll walk you there." No, bitch, you're walking me nowhere. And what do you mean I don't belong here? And this is the thing, the people with this type of mentality, they think that they own every fucking thing. You don't own the whole neighborhood. You don't own that street. All you own is that little bitty square place of where your house is and where your end of your yard ends. You don't own shit else. And I don't know what gives these people the audacity to tell somebody where they need to be and where they belong, and oh, I'm gonna walk you home. No, you ain't walking me home. Now you sitting here giving out all of this negative energy to this kid, talking all this shit about how you'll bust him up, and then he's trying to walk away. You nudging him with your shoulder and shit, trying to get him to react to you. But then, but then, but then, when the black people showed up at your house, 50, 70, 100 deep, now all you can do is peek out your little window. You can't step outside that door now. They're asking you to come outside. You wanted to talk to him. You talking to him all aggressive, telling him where he don't belong. But then when that energy flips around and it turns on you, you hide behind your walls. I knew somebody like that. Dealt with them personally, where they'll sit there in my face, everything is kosher. But then when you behind the door and the door is locked, I'm a bitch now. Fuck you. You ain't nothing but a punk ass bitch. And you know what my response was? You the one that's hiding behind a locked door. But when the door was open and the police was there, oh, that gentleman is not allowed here. See how it flips? If you ain't with that type of energy, don't give it out. Because a lot of times you're going to get back what you give out. But then when it's too much for you to handle, then you hide behind doors. And yes, I'm glad that that dude ended up getting charged with assault. Well, I think it was assault and battery where he ended up getting charged with. I can't remember which degree that it was. But the thing is, like, it all goes back to that train of thought of like where they think that we like still in the 60s and like black people can't afford to stay in certain neighborhoods and all this type shit. Amar Arbery running through a neighborhood, get shot. Trayvon Martin. Now this wasn't a cop. George Zimmerman punk ass. I don't understand why he's still out here living his life. But they said that he was in the wrong neighborhood. He didn't supposed to be in that neighborhood. These guys always get away with this type stuff. Now the one man, I ain't even gonna get started on that. But this whole train of thought of like we don't belong in certain places. This is a close knit neighborhood. Man, listen. My whole thing is if people mind their own business and stop trying to run shit, then we could be a better America. Well, people are so caught up in being in other people's business. Gay marriage, what is that? In somebody else's business. Interracial marriage, in somebody else's business. Abortion, in somebody else's business. That's what all of this shit is. Why are you worrying about what other people do? You do what you want to do with your family. When it comes to somebody else, stop fucking worrying about it. That's the problem with America. And I know you may sit here and say, "Oh, well, what about your stance on guns?" My stance on guns is basically everybody don't need these motherfuckers because you know what? It has been proven that everybody can't handle it. They're just like kids. All kids don't deserve to be grown up with the same rules. When I was in high school, my mom could trust me. And I was a boy. So she was like, yo, if you ain't coming home, call me. I don't care what time it is. But when it came to my sister, it wasn't that my sister couldn't handle it. It was the fact that my sister was a girl. And my mom was like, yo, you got curfew. And a lot of the reason with that is really more to protect the girls because a lot of these dudes out here can't be trusted to be around women because they can't stop raping them. So my whole thing is, yo, everybody don't need to have their hands on a gun. And everybody don't need to be a cop. You know, just like when the 16-year-old girl got shot, they had the knife. They said that when all these people were saying like, "Yo, that was a little girl," and he screamed, "Blue Lives Matter." Until y'all show me an avatar around here or a Smurf, ain't no such thing as a fucking blue life. It's crazy. It's crazy, yo. I just wanted to get some things off my chest. Um, you know what I'm saying? That's why I got this platform. I had some guys were on with me last week. Um, You know what I'm saying? I wasn't able to really talk much, but then the Derek Chauvin stuff wasn't out yet, so we didn't really know what was going on. Um, I will say once again, I just feel that this is a one in 15 type of season. There's not nothing to celebrate here. Um, it is something to look at to say that it's a small win, but it's still a terrible season. You know what I'm saying? It's not anything where it's like, well, I would say that, like I say, man, if this dude does get a substantial amount of time, I don't think it's going to change the mentality of these cops because all these situations are being looked at as different. I mean, Derek Chauvin was on camera with his knee in a man's neck for over 9 minutes. I don't think that mistake is going to happen again. I think that these cops will come up with another type of creative way to do a public lynching in front of the world. And that's something else that you got to remember. That was perfectly legal in this country. They used to put it in the newspaper. There would be a lynching at 5 o'clock. And those type of mindset, listen to me, that type of mindset white people will show up and sit there and smile and watch a man either be burnt, hanging, burnt, tied to a tree, all these different little creative things that they used to do to lynch a man in public, and they would stand there and watch and have a grand old time. And that's what a lot of these people are doing now. It's just these public lynchings are being filmed from a cell phone in broad daylight in front of people, and no accountability is being held. And when it comes to this situation, it remains to be seen. Shout out to Uncle Washington. Nothing but love for my guy. I wish I had more answers for y'all, but I don't have it at this moment. You'll know something when I know something. Shout out to Casey. I appreciate him jumping on the last 28 minutes of last podcast with me. We talked about a lot of music, sampled music. So if that's your type of thing, please go over there and go check that out. Me and Scoots Bronson, we just put out a Viewers Anonymous. Shout out to him. We just did the movie Spotlight, the 2015 film. Um, I feel it's a very great episode. I think people will enjoy it. It's very informative. So go over there and go check that out. It's on all major platforms. And you can get the visuals on Scoots Bronson TV. And also, if you want the visuals for the 28 minutes or less in this podcast, the Stolen Time Podcast, you can find it on the Stolen Time Podcast Network on YouTube. Shout out to Sinclair. Shout out to Dustin. You know what I'm saying, for coming on that other podcast with me. Also, shout out to Candace. I appreciate her support and her comments that she leave me. Nothing but appreciative for it. Like I've been saying, I've been doing some thinking when it comes to this platform. Nothing is set in stone. I'm still thinking about some things about either doing or not doing when it comes to this platform. But when I find out, you will find out. But until the next time, this was episode 208 of the Stolen Time Podcast, and I'm out.